Okay, let's dive right into this. Our environment isn't just some abstract concept you read about in a textbook, it's the literal reality right outside our doors. Today we're looking at the root causes of environmental degradation and, more importantly, the tangible, real-world steps we can take to build a sustainable future. So, let's get into this explainer and unpack exactly what it takes to protect our shared future.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We're going to cover core environmental issues, causes and effects, sustainable development, and we'll wrap up with action for nature.
All right, Section 1, Core Environmental Issues, from local floods to global crises.
To really grasp the scale of these issues, we have to look locally. Take Leah's story from Baringamalinius over in Bulacan. For her, a heavy rain doesn't just mean a few puddles. Her entire neighborhood floods in a matter of minutes. And why? Well, their canals were completely choked by unmanaged plastic waste. Because of this localized mismanagement, schools are forced to shut down and homes are completely wrecked. So you see, environmental degradation isn't just an academic term. It's a direct threat to our daily survival and our infrastructure.
So you might be wondering, what exactly is an environmental issue? What elevates just a patch of bad weather into a full-blown crisis? Well, it's the breakdown of this massive, interconnected web we all live in. An environmental issue is essentially any disruption that negatively impacts humans, plants, animals, and natural resources. When just one node fails, like that plastic-blocked canal in Bulacan, the ripple effects immediately hit human education, housing, and overall safety.
The source material breaks these issues down into 5 main pillars. First up, pollution, and that's whether we're talking about thick smog from factories or contaminated water and land. Second is climate change, which is bringing us rising temperatures and increasingly devastating typhoons. Third, deforestation. This is driven by illegal logging and slash-and-burn farming, which we locally know as kainging. Fourth is waste mismanagement. Did you know that the Philippines is actually often cited as one of the world's largest contributors to ocean plastic, despite our relative size? That is literally the plastic choking our esteros. And fifth, marine degradation, driven by highly destructive practices like dynamite fishing that just decimate our coral reefs. So the crucial point is that these aren't isolated incidents. They are an interconnected web of crises compounding one another every single day.
Moving on to Section 2, Causes and Effects, Understanding the Root of Environmental Destruction.
Let's anchor this section with another pretty powerful local account, this time from Quezon Province. Mang Juan remembers a time when the mountain near his town was lush, green, filled with birds, and kept the local climate nice and cool. But over time, relentless and unregulated tree cutting just stripped that mountain completely bare. And the result? Well, when the rainy season arrived, the town experienced unprecedented flooding and deadly landslides. Animals lost their habitats, and the town's clean water supply shrank drastically. This led to a profound realization for the whole town. The destruction of nature has a heavy impact on our community.
When we break down the causes of this environmental degradation, they fall neatly into 2 distinct categories: human activities and natural causes. On the right side, we have natural events, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and typhoons. Actually, scratch that. Calling them events makes them sound small. These are inevitable, massive forces of nature. But on the left side, we have human activities: illegal logging, slash-and-burn farming, unmanaged mining, and rampant plastic waste. The source material makes a really clear point here. While natural disasters absolutely occur, human actions are a massive primary driver of environmental destruction. It is our mismanagement that turns a heavy rainstorm into a catastrophic, community-destroying flood. We have total agency over that left side of the equation. And this brilliantly illustrates the direct pipeline from human action to community suffering. It's like a domino effect. Take flooding, for example. It isn't just an act of nature, it's often directly caused by blocked canals and deforestation, which then results in landslides and completely disrupted lives. Or look at air pollution. That's driven by unregulated vehicles and factories, resulting directly in serious respiratory diseases. Basically, every human action has a measurable, often devastating reaction.
Let's expand on those reactions, because the ripple effects here are literally staggering. On a human level, it means a spike in disease, the total loss of livelihoods, and incredibly dangerous living conditions. On a natural level, it results in a devastating loss of biodiversity and the death of local plants and animals. And economically, we're looking at lowered production and massive financial costs for rehabilitation and disaster recovery. There's a deeply tragic irony here, right? When a society neglects nature just to save some money or cut corners, it's the humans and the local economy that ultimately foot the bill and suffer the most.
All right, Section 3, Sustainable Development. Let's look at the path forward.
Now for the solutions, and I absolutely love this next example. I want to introduce you to a fantastic success story from a public school in Laguna. The students there noticed these empty, unused lots scattered around their campus. With their teachers' help, they didn't just clean them up, they completely transformed them into thriving vegetable gardens. They used compost made from biodegradable waste and practiced really strict water conservation. Then the harvest was used for the school's feeding program, and they even sold the surplus to buy more gardening supplies. I mean, this is a perfect, highly scalable example of turning waste into a life-giving, self-sustaining resource.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it brings us to the core concept of our entire explainer, sustainable development. In simple terms, it means meeting our present needs without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet theirs. It is the ultimate balancing act. It's what ensures Leia in Bulacan and Mang Juan in Quezon can thrive today, while guaranteeing healthy soil and clean water for their grandchildren tomorrow.
To actually pull this off, sustainable development relies on 3 highly interdependent pillars. You know, it's not just about planting a few trees and calling it a day. First is the environmental pillar, conserving resources, reducing pollution, and using our energy wisely. Second is the social pillar, fostering community unity, respecting human rights, and ensuring public health and safety. And third is the economic pillar, creating stable livelihoods, practicing responsible consumption, and ensuring long-term progress. Think of it like a 3-legged stool. If you only focus on the environment but completely ignore the local economy, the whole system topples over. You absolutely need all 3 working in harmony.
Let's move to and see how this builds into actionable practice, because you really don't need to be a global policymaker to enact sustainable development. Right here in the Philippines, it looks like strict waste segregation in your own barangay. It looks like urban gardening, taking your own reusable bags to the market, and just being mindful about conserving water and electricity at home. Sure, they might seem like really small individual acts, but when you combine them across millions of households, they create a massive systemic impact.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Action for Nature, your role in the ecosystem.
The source material leaves us with a really powerful journal prompt, and I want to pose it directly to you right now. As a grade 10 student, how can you show that you are a responsible steward of nature? Nature is an incredible, vital gift, but as we've clearly seen today, it is also incredibly fragile. The environmental crises we face are largely the result of our own destructive human habits. But here's the good news. Through responsible resource use and a real commitment to sustainable development, you have the exact power needed to help build a safe, prosperous future. So think about your own community. Think about your own barangay. What is the one thing you can start doing today to protect our shared future? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.